So I bought this keyboard for nothing. It's a Casiotone MT-800. And what's interesting about it is that it has no built-in speakers. I haven't looked this one up, but my suspicion is that this is what Casio may have been selling as prosumer. The other possibility, however, is that the speakers were just external, but were more or less built in anyway. We have a speaker L, an 1/8 inch jack, and we have a speaker R, also an 1/8 inch jack, which I can't focus on. There's also a headphone jack here, and a tuning knob, which is interesting. And then over on this side, we have a microphone input, which I'm guessing is for like karaoke stuff, because this thing probably does have a built-in amplifier. And then RCA outs. So, if this was genuinely supposed to be some kind of prosumer thing, it would have 1/4 inch outputs on it. So, yes, it has the phone's output on 1/4 inch, but that's just because at this time, headphones were by and large 1/4 inch anyway. Because the only 1/8 inch headphones, this was probably, I would guess 83, maybe earlier. Most 1/8 inch headphones at that point would have been Walkman, if that was even out, and no one was using those at home. So 1/4 inch headphones is just sensible. The RCA outputs suggest somebody would be running this into a stereo, or like a tape recorder, or consumer tape recorder. The 1/8 inch outputs for the speakers, though, that sort of clinches it, because at that time, it was not uncommon for things like stereos, boomboxes, cheap boomboxes primarily, to have detachable speakers. So you had your portable stereo system, but then you could put it in the kitchen and move the speakers out to get good stereo separation. So I'm guessing that's what this is about. I think that this was meant to be something you would set up on a desk and have the speakers sitting up higher, routed around some shelves, so you could get a professional grade studio monitor experience. So I still think that this thing is basically a cheesy home toy, not a serious instrument, especially considering these. These LEDs here are typically part of the Casiotone learning system, and if you flip this open, there's this melody guide. So the deal there is that this bad boy is a ROM cart that would typically contain some songs, which are going to be junk. Mary Had a Little Lamb, that sort of thing. You'd put this in, smash memory start, and then it's going to play a song and show you the notes to press here, and you're probably not going to be able to actually follow along, because it's a little more, this isn't Guitar Hero. It's not like you can see the lights before they light up. They just light up and now it's time to play them. This was a gimmick that was very common on 80s, cheesy 80s toy keyboards, so I'm guessing that's what that's about. And again, clearly puts it in the category of toy silly. Not to mention that here in the instrument selection, which I think on some of these they called the orchestra section, but in this one it's just called tone, which is probably more accurate, being this is just programming a single tone generator. We have the funny option, which again I feel like probably wouldn't be present on a pro-grade instrument. And of course, the famous Casio chord. Again, probably not present on a pro-grade instrument. So this is just a toy, but this is an analog toy. The fact that it has a tuning knob over here, a tuning potentiometer actually, not even a knob, just a pot stock sticking out, tells us that this is an analog instrument, or I guess it could be digital with some sort of digital clock source that could drift, but they had quartz crystals at this point. That's not the case. This is an analog instrument. So when you press these, you're just probably hooking up a series of resistors and capacitors to a set of oscillators. And the tones from these analog synthesizers of any era, no matter what, tend to be pretty warm, pretty pleasant. And this is interesting because this is a 4-octave keyboard. This is a big one. And that suggests that while this may not be prosumer, this is probably at the higher end of their consumer range. Probably has plenty of polyphony. You can probably play some nice stuff on this. It's worth spending some time on. It looks like a pretty decent instrument, all things considered, if we ignore the silly memory card feature. The problem is, it won't go. This was at a store run by somebody that I know, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, I plugged a power supply into it, and I can't even get it to light up. And my first thought about that was, okay, well, it's center negative. It's probably center negative because this is a Casio keyboard from the 80s. They did that. So did Roland and Boss and a couple other companies, but Casio was really bad about it. And the problem is, if you plug in a center negative power supply to a center positive device, or vice versa, such as the case here, you smoke it, or it just doesn't go. But usually you smoke it. So it's probably smoked. So I tried plugging in a center negative 9-volt supply, which is what this takes, a 9-volt supply. It lit up, but when I toggled the power switch, the power light wouldn't go out, which is creepy. And just for kicks, I tried plugging in an audio output cable to the phone's jack, and I got a hum that then got worse and worse and worse till I yanked the power. I think that someone plugged a center positive power supply into this and totally smoked it. But the fact that something happened and the audio amplifier circuitry came on, the light over here came on, means they didn't smoke it so hard that it's unrecoverable, very likely. So it might just be a cooked regulator or a diode bridge or something like that. It might be fixable. So I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to see if it's visibly smoked and if it's something I can replace. I got some miscellaneous electrical parts in the basement. I can probably replace a simple transistor, voltage regulator, or diode, whatever. So if it's something like that, we can heal it. And if not, at a minimum, we can find out what voltage it actually takes, what polarity it actually takes, and find out whether it's just been getting bad supply current. So here we go. Because of the limited nature of my studio environment here, namely I don't have one, I can't show the whole thing at once, so this will be a little awkward. Also, taking these apart is often an adventure. It's an adventure in finding hidden screws. For instance, there's one down in there. Now, the battery compartment is not an unusual place to find one. Unfortunately, this one has no adhesive-backed stickers on it, so that saves us a lot of trouble. So usually got to check under every one of those. And this is interesting. My screwdriver won't fit in that hole. I need another screwdriver. Let's try this one. It's probably too small. There we go. Okay. Okay. 2 screws. 2 screws recovered. Alright, and there we go. All 93 screws recovered. A hidden one. There's a secret screw down the battery compartment. This will be invaluable information to the enormous Casiotone collectors community. I'm sure they've been waiting for years for this teardown. There we go. Be the next iFixit. Alright, now will this just come out? Probably not. You know, dollars to donuts. Come off. Probably gotta pop these sliders. Generally the way of things. Fortunately, they're not wedged in there super hard. They come out really easy. Okay. I lost one, but they're fairly easy to find. That's interesting. That's interesting. So this is cute. So check this out. So this is gray, a little orange stripe painted on it, but it's not painted. See how it goes all the way through? It's double shot cast. That's durable. That'll never come off. Just barely a seam there. That's a nice little Lego. Little 2 stamped in there. That's really low profile too. Nice casting. I mean, I don't know much about plastics molding, but I've seen much worse dual shots. Alright, let's see if it'll come apart now. Oh, do I have to pop this thing? I probably have to pop this silly door. No, that's probably anchored to the top. Okay, so let's see if it'll come now. I'm getting some give. I'm getting some give. Oh, there's another screw. Another secret screw. I'm screwed. They use so many screws in these things, you might think, well, it's good build quality. No. I'm pretty sure it's because plastics at the time were cheap and weak. So you put lots and lots of screws in there to increase your chances that the whole thing wouldn't just come apart at those seams. Because you're putting screws into plastic, and that's just a bad story from the beginning. So there's a battery compartment here, so there must be some wires, and there they are, and of course they're soldered straight on, they don't come off. This thing's a beast! Look at this! Fun.
Yeah?
You should take a peek at this.
Un momento.
Yeah. This thing is a straight up forest of components.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it is a full analog synthesizer, so.
Yeah, indeed. You could probably circuit bend this thing from hell to breakfast. So it's integrated circuits. You can see the dip lines there. That's interesting. That little diagonal one. I'm guessing that's probably where a ribbon cable lands, something like that. Wires, just wires everywhere. Wires everywhere. I think it's interesting. They have an SOIC. I'm not sure if that's an SOIC. I think that's an SOIC. They have this little small outline chip on the bottom of the board. But clearly they have a lot of other stuff on the other side of the board. So they really had to cram this stuff in here to get this thing built. This is a fascinating piece of kit. If I can't get it working, I'm still going to tear it apart and take photos of the boards because this is remarkable. It's filthy. It's disgusting inside. It's really, really nasty. And of course, the wires that I need to remove are attached on the other side of the board, so I can't easily get it up. So to proceed, I'm going to have to really dig in there. I'm going to have to pull this whole board out. Those two screws, oh, and that looks like a post to me. Let's see. Yeah, that's a post. Oh, and I see the fourth one. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there's four. Now this has a good ozone semiconductor kind of reek, but that might just be rosin flux. That's got a pretty good reek to it on its own. So it's not entirely likely that this thing is cooked at this point, just from the smell. Swing this over. Ooh, 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 oh, that's so god-awful nasty. Let's do this. Let's get a preview, a sneak preview of what we have in there. Oh, it's that 80s boombox style design. Oh, this thing's life is over.
Yeah.
Nope. No. Alright. Can you hand me the wire cutters? This thing is chooched. I'm going to show you why. This isn't worth the least bit of work. Oh yeah, you can see what's going on. Make this go away. Make that disappear. It's a damn shame. I'm glad I didn't pay anything for it. Here we go. Alright. Content warning. Gore.
Oh, that entire board got coated.
So no, it's not even battery residue. You know what that is?
Capacitor residue?
Nope, it's just plain old water. This thing sat in water. That's just plain old corrosion. This will never work again. Everything on here is just destroyed. Look at this, it's like there's cobwebs tucked in. This is.
It's funny that this seems to be the only board damaged like that, though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is half the circuitry. Check this out.
Oh yeah, but ooh.
Yeah, you see that chip?
Yeah.
That chip is it's bleeding, and there's yellow stuff crusted around the resistors, and oh man, this is a sad story. This thing was cool. Once upon a time, this was a neat board, but it's past its time. Look at this electromechanical compromise they've made here, where they had to get a cable through the board, so they just made a notch in the board and they bolted down on both sides because they lost the structural integrity, and just brought this big cable bundle through. And it's a bunch of, see, that's thick gauge, that's small gauge, that's heavy gauge, that's medium gauge. This is all sorts of different things. This is a big nasty bus interconnect. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's probably a hop. Actually, you know what? I know what that is. That's a hop over to the phones. Amplified tuning control. Probably what it is. So that's positive. Yeah, that's probably where all that comes through. I wish I hadn't taken it apart. It's even sadder. This thing is, it's like an accordion. It's got so many parts. That's well, so this is a second PCB stuck on top of the first one, and then over here is this little flying bridge. They ran out of room for just a few parts, so they just drilled more holes in the board, put on this little secondary PCB. I'm curious, certainly, about several components of this. Not the least of which is this chip here. This is a HD 14011 BP. It could be also an HD 14011, just 4000 series CMOS chip. I don't know what that is. I'll have to go look it up. I didn't think there was anything audio related in the 4000 series, but anyway. And then this, what do we have here? It's an NEC branded big dip D931C. That's got to be some integrated synthesizer chip. Probably some all-in-one great big analog synthesizer mess. You'd order this out of the NEC parts catalog, and then you'd have a schematic that just looks like the molecule for Bakelite. It shows you how to install this forest, this constellation of support circuits. Yeah, so as I suspected, this guy here is a 4011, just a basic CMOS logic chip. It's a quad 2-input NAND gate. Look at this. This is, yeah, this bundle of wires here, this huge, thick bundle of wires here, all this 22 gauge insulated stuff they had to drag to the board, solder by hand, all that for a quad NAND gate and a few support components. So my guess is that they put this in very late in the process, and they had absolutely loaded this board, and they were doing all the routing probably by hand. No computerized, or if it was computerized, it was still expensive. They were probably doing it on some shared mainframe system, mini computer or whatever. So this was probably pretty much done, and then at the last second they're like, oh shoot, we really need that quad and gate. There we go. That's interesting. That's interesting. That might be phenolic. I'm going to come back to that. That might be a phenolic resin. It's got that brown color and the rigidity of it. This thing might be really old. So I feel like other than for PCBs themselves, phenolic had sort of fallen out of favor by the mid-80s. I feel like I haven't seen phenolic in anything past 81, 82. So to see it in something like this is probably really old. Yeah, nothing really exciting. What I do find interesting is this label up here, 25C1815YX6. Kind of suggests that this is 6 of something. So maybe that's a sub-assembly or a sub-oscillator standard component, and I think there's 6 of them on this board, but that's kind of weird. By the way, this guy here, the 931, yeah, that's a main dual square wave generator. That's NEC. I guess at the time it would have been a jelly bean part, something you could just buy if you wanted to make a synthesizer. Looks like this will come out now. Reveal. Yeah, more the same. We have a copyright logo up here, but we don't have a date. So here's a big fat C. It says M490 MAME. Not Maine with an N. M as in monster. So this is one of these little spacers. Scratch it. Yeah. See, it doesn't have any elasticity. It doesn't have any, it's not goopy. You know, it's not soft. When you scratch it, it just turns to powder, if you can get it to go at all. I'm sorry, I can't focus at all on this thing. But that has the color and the feel and the Mohs hardness. of phenolic resin. So that's, I guess it being phenolic, that's probably fiber or powder reinforced. It's got like some ground up paper, glass, or rock. Who knows what they put in this stuff. But that's a really hard piece of plastic. I kind of miss this stuff. It must have been miserable to work with, but I always liked the look and the feel. Also, I've looked it up, and it seems, based on what little information I could find, and I couldn't find much, but it seems that this instrument probably came out in 1983. That's a damn shame. I really hope to get this thing working, because I looked up videos of it, and it sounds fantastic. But I'm sure I'll find another one at the Dearborn Goodwill soon enough, and then I'll make a video of it where I actually play it. So, Godspeed in the next life.